All right, so thought exercise two for Anheuser-Busch. First thing is analyze Anheuser-Busch's competitive environment using five forces of competition model.
Um, I guess I could start. What's it called? Threat of new entrants is pretty low, considering the fact how big Anheuser-Busch is. I think you would need like a lot of capital for brewing and distribution in order to even touch what Anheuser-Busch has, as well as the brand loyalty associated with, right? Everybody knows Anheuser-Busch beer. So, you could be a smaller producer, but you will never ever really get to the scale of Anheuser-Busch. It's almost statistically impossible.
Yeah, I agreed. I put down new entrants as a low as well. Medium, I actually put threat of substitute products. If y'all notice on the movie, they the small companies, they were trying to be different and doing like the pumpkins and the different brands. So that was kind of a medium for Anheuser Busch to adjust and target these substitutes, and then they put out their own line of product to kind of to similar their product.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that okay, I was just gonna say I think the threat of substitution is medium also with like the caffeinated beers and the specialty things. Um, Not everybody wants just a regular light beer. Now they've got their hands in all different types of areas where they own all those companies that have things that are different. I was gonna say that buyer power is also medium threat. I think we've all seen what happened with them recently. They did lose a lot of buyer interest, but at the same time, it's back to where it was. It was a short period of time after the issue with the specialty can. So I would put that one as medium as well because buyers definitely still have a say in um, where Budweiser goes, Anheuser-Busch goes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, there's definitely power in the buyers, like we talked about in the other discussion we had a while back. I wanted to touch on the specialty beers that you brought up, how they started to see like, oh, okay, like these people are creating seasonals and trying to make new things. And then they went and put their own restrictions on it or whatever because those people didn't have the funds to do it just yet and all that. And then they went and made better tasting beer or just supplied it before they could and taking up shelf space so that other people couldn't get in. So it's like very interesting after watching the movie to see like how the competition is not only just like market situation, but it also has to do with like store placement and stuff too. I found that very intriguing.
Oh, yeah, definitely right. Because they might stick the smaller guys in the back where nobody even makes it to by the bathroom somewhere.
Yeah.
No. Also for high, I think I put intensity of rivalry among competitors because I feel like the small breweries can come together and want to target the big one and try to overrun them a little bit, and then they can focus on competing with each other after they've kind of overtaken some of that market share.
Right. And then seeing like once they get the market share, then they're like, okay, let's try to buy that brand. They're not necessarily trying to like keep the integrity of the brand, but they're like, okay, now that they're big enough, we can buy them and then just mass produce their beer. Like what was the green, sorry, I know it's the green bottle one, you know what I'm talking about? It was like it's not as popular anymore. It's not Heineken, the other one, the Rolling Rock or something.
Rolling Rock. Yeah.
Yeah, they went and bought that and then just ran with it because it had a pretty big share in the market at that time.
So crazy that they didn't even want the brewery though. They just wanted the name.
Yep.
That was nuts to me.
Money buys it.
Yeah. And then supplier power, I think I have that one as like a low because I mean it's again when you get this big, like if this supplier is not going to get you what you need for the right cost, then the next one will because you're so big, everybody wants that contract. I mean,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because at that point you're well established and have your networking in place to be able to have your choice of supplier that's going to be beneficial to your business.
Hmm. Um, and then, so we got through those five. The other question on this slide was, what elements of the external environment represent long-term risks for Anheuser-Busch?
Wait.
Uh,
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I got
I
I
was
had
reading.
put I had put sustainability concerns, or like actually and economic volatility is the biggest one for me. With global with global economic instability, inflation, wars, just geopolitical risk. I feel like that's probably one of the bigger long-term risks, but I could be wrong about that.
no, I agree with like the heck, look what COVID, right, with the shutdown and people being laid off, and obviously that brought down numbers for redirecting money from alcohol to something more priorities, at least for most people. Um,
Right.
I'll also put down one of the long term is probably social cultural. So because just different generations as we move forward, they're not like, hey, I want to go have me a beer today. It's more like I'm gonna have me a martini, or you know uh, these new shops
Yeah.
where you vape alcohol, which is crazy.
Vape alcohol?
Yeah, you haven't seen
I've
those?
never heard of that. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
it's like a alcohol. It's like a lounge, and they're able to vape alcohol. It's weird.
Hmm.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's yeah. But I would agree, like the change of the environment and what each generation's gonna want, because not necessarily my generation, because I feel like I'm more of like the oh let's go get a margarita situation, but the like my parents and then kind of like a little bit younger than that is big on the brewery scene, which yes they're a brewery but they don't have their own little stands like everybody else does, so like um
The craft breweries have,
Colorado's really big. Yeah.
I
And
think like the
yeah.
one for craft breweries has definitely taken off. To some extent, Anheuser-Busch has purchased a lot of those smaller breweries like Karbach, but
Yeah.
there's still like people brewing their own beer or finding like it's kind of a cool thing to find, oh, this small brewery that has something that I like that,
Right.
isn't, and you've got all these people that aren't interested in. I think this generation is more anti-corporate than a lot of previous generations, where they want to work with the small businesses and help the small businesses grow and not necessarily keep giving money to the man.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do we
Um,
want to go into the opportunities question? Okay.
yeah. Um, I think in there I put demographic as opportunities because population is increasing. So as population increases, also the market share. So as social cultural is an issue, as they're pushing out new generations coming in, and so I think that's an opportunity for them to take for future demographic as to be able to transition.
Yeah. I think while they do tap into it every now and then, but like actually like a the flavor situation is like a big opportunity if they actually wanted to dedicate a specific section to making like more so like craft type of beer. They have the resources for it at this point. They're that big, but it's just if they want to do it, to be honest, at this point.
Yep. They just gotta realize the profit to whatever they're expending to do that shift. And like you said, it's
Right.
there. It's just if it's going to be worth it to them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I bet, and
Um,
then another thing could be like just what's it called, diversify, not what's it called, technological advancements, like for example, like streamlining the processes and whatnot, just for operational efficiency reasons. And most breweries have been doing that over the past 200, 300 years. So I would say no, that's still a long-term opportunity maintained.
Right.
oh yeah, I think political and legal, as shown in there, heck, they were sponsoring a political conference during the movie, and because they have the funds, and so that's something that's in their pocket as definitely an opportunity for them to upkeep with that, to have them on their side.
Mhm.
I do think especially now an opportunity for them would be to show that they are, um, without going down any rabbit hole, but that they are for everyone and not, it was just such a big issue with that, like recently we all know about, but um, an opportunity is for them to continue to grow from that and continue to market to everyone without offending different segments, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they had a big lesson learned with that Bud Light
Hmm.
stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely an opportunity to get better, that's for sure.
Right. And I think global was another opportunity for them, because they're going to continue to target markets that they're not in, like they do now, and they will continue to expand and target the local communities wherever they may hit to their beer preference or their drink. They're just that big and able to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Um, the next exercise is to identify the core competencies. So identify their resources,
Yeah.
capabilities, core competencies, and competitive advantage.
I mean, I can start off with the competitive advantage. They're just a massive company and they capitalize on who will sell to them, to be honest. Like, aside from selling their product, they're able to be like, okay, they've gotten popular enough, let's buy them. Like, they just keep building their brand and they have so many different brands within the brand that people didn't even realize that, like, Anheuser-Busch is like Bud Light is the same. Like, they didn't even realize that sometimes. So I think just having the opportunity to go in all these different directions as one entity.
Yep, definitely. As a core competence is similar, but that they have the capability to do high investment into the marketing and their sales. And like you said, they just drop that money in.
Yeah.
Movement or the tangible resources. So I think their finances, obviously their money, which plays a lot, and their plants and factories that they have. Um, it's that's a big resource for them because it allows them to produce mass productions of their alcohol.
And
I think
they're so big that they have several different, you know, farmers that they work with and different places to get their hops and their grain from. And they have the financial backing that if they aren't getting what they need somewhere, they can get it somewhere else. So, I mean, obviously, financial is huge for their resources, but all of the infrastructure they also have.
Yep. And their employees as well. I mean, the amount of employees they have. I mean, that they're experts in their craft, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
and they have a lot of products too, a lot of SKUs, which is also fantastic because you can reach a huge amount of demographics just through Anheuser-Busch's offerings. So I think that's another one.
I think another tangible resource was their mergers and acquisitions that they have. So, like we discussed earlier, how they bought Rolling Rock. So the names, the brands, different brands, all that, what belongs to them.
Mhm.
Right.
Um, for intangible, the biggest thing I put was the reputation of Anheuser-Busch. Just from sponsoring events. I mean, they used to be big on the Super Bowl with the Clydesdales, the Budweiser, the halftime shows. So that's something that can never be taken away. You think
Well,
Clydesdale, you
yeah, and I think that's definitely apparent with when they were talking about they were asking who was the sponsor of the Super Bowl, and it was Coors. It wasn't even Budweiser, but people were Budweiser, Budweiser, Budweiser
right?
because of their
Yeah.
history. So yeah, that's a huge one.
Yeah. I would also venture to say that, like, um one of their, like, competency, whatever you want to call it, is simplicity. Like, most of their beers are not that much different as they showed. Like, each of the beers kind of taste the same as all the other big companies too. So it's like, yes, people are like, oh my gosh, my favorite is this type of beer, but it's pretty it's a simple beer. Like, they stick to the lights and that's about it. Maybe add a
I,
couple flavors.
I mean, kind of, but they also own a lot of craft breweries. Like they own Goose Island, they own Golden Road, they own Arbok, they own Kona. They
I
even
know
have
that's,
malt liquors. Like they're just
Jeez.
yeah, no, I'm saying like they're big, huge, generic
their
ones.
their main
Like,
ones. Yeah,
yeah,
I gotcha.
yeah, yeah. Like they capitalize in the simplicity market. That way, they're able to invest in their craft market, like their other specialties.
I still found it hard to believe that when they did that taste test there, that they couldn't distinguish between the Miller, the Coors, and the Bud Light. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah,
It
I
made
would
me
be
feel
able
like I needed to try it because I feel like I know the difference between them.
yeah, definitely.
right.
Um,
Uh,
then there we had capabilities and core competencies that I think we needed to still go over here.
I think distribution and logistics is one of the biggest capabilities. I mean, they have a streamlined process. You know, their trucks coming in through the warehouses, loading up, rolling out, and so I think that was pretty legit on their end.
I would agree with that, and and also with the distribution, they mentioned it in the movie a little bit, but there are other brands that will have to distribute through Anheuser-Busch, be able to even be put on the shelves that aren't even necessarily Anheuser-Busch products, but they're the big distributor, so you got to go along with them anyway.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think that falls into that political legal aspect where they kind of, you know, bullied the little guys and be like, yeah,
Hmm.
we'll let you have a ride with us.
Yeah.
Um, think for the competitive advantage piece, the lower cost due to production output, just because I think because they can, like I said, make in mass, and it's a lower production cost for them, and they can lower the cost for the consumer, and kind of, leading the consumer to that purchase is a big competitive advantage for them.
And thinking now that could be part of the advantage with purchasing those lower, um, those smaller breweries that they can mass produce what those brewers are making for much cheaper. So when they do purchase like that Rolling Rock's not nearly as big, so they probably can just make it faster and cheaper than what Rolling Rock could initially.
Yep.
And I also think like being I think we touched on it earlier as well, but the global market presence, right? Like the reach within North America and Europe, and they have like expansion in Africa, Asia, Latin America, it's giving them like a pretty decent balanced revenue stream. So that's another competitive advantage as well.
Yep.
Yep.
Like you said, their operations efficiency. That's a big competitive advantage, just the way they operate.
Move on to the last slide.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so business level strategy, analyze Anheuser-Busch's strategy. Who are the stakeholders? Who are the customers? What needs are satisfied, and how will they be satisfied?
For the strategy, I put them at the cost leadership strategy, just because they're trying to provide goods that are acceptable to the consumer at the lower price. Do you agree with that?
Yep.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that's fair. They do try to provide the lowest price possible, and I think stakeholders are definitely um, there's many stakeholders in the area. They've got the employees, they have shareholders that they're trying to um, create the most profit possible. Um, and so, they're also trying to provide customers are everyday people. So they're trying to provide the lowest price product for them too. And think in that movie, they're mentioning like the pumpkin spice one where Budweiser could produce it for like $3.99 for a 6 pack, where they were selling it for like $7.99 or $8. And um, I think providing that low cost makes it more attainable for most people that might not spend the money somewhere else sometimes. Whether it's good or bad, it's still cheaper, so they're willing to put their dollars there.
Right. And like they said in there, which I found awesome, was like, why is someone going to pay the $7.99 for my 6 pack or whatever, when they're not realizing they're paying for the taste and the quality.
Hmm.
And I was
They're
like, oh
like, I
yeah,
can get
how
the
many,
same thing.
yeah, how many times we've been in a store and we're like, oh, this is the same stuff. We're $2 cheaper. I'm just gonna get it. If I don't like it, it was only this much.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
like when you buy like a Kroger brand whatever, and it's the exact same as like the name brand, but or we perceive it as the exact same as the name brand, but it's like
Right.
$3 cheaper, and you're like, yeah, I'll get the cheaper one. It's the same difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. As far as customers, I think obviously the distributors, like your supermarkets, your vendors, your bars, is a big customer area for them, along with the consumers.
Yeah.
True. And I think the needs being satisfied are we had already mentioned having the low price product available. Um, that is an enjoyable product for most of the people that drink it, or at least does the job. If it's not tasty, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely low cost.
and I think how they're being satisfied as well, like the distributors, they'll communicate with the sales or whatever, and they'll be like, hey, we're not selling this, so we got to move down the stock of this and increase this because we're selling out of this. So I think the communication, they're able to satisfy the stock of what the distributor is able to push. Same thing with the bars.
Right. And I feel like that kind of also gives them feedback on like, okay, so this product's not doing that well. Like they're able to get feedback from so many different areas versus, whenever you have your own single standalone brewery, you just get the feedback right there and that's about it. Like, it's not
Yeah.
all these different markets where you're like, oh, I could just push more over here, put this product over there.
Yeah. Move on to the last section. Did we cover everything? I think we covered everything on that.
Yeah.
Do we need?
So,
We already kind of talked about their market segment.
well, that's what I was gonna say, is just analyze their market segment, and
Yeah.
we kind of did talk
Yeah.
about that a little bit with especially like the perceptual factors. I think we talked about it being cheaper. The perception is that it's the same sometimes as the more expensive kind, so it opens that door to trying something that somebody wouldn't normally try. Um, and I think socioeconomic, something like social here,
Yeah. With that, I think they have,
influences. I don't know.
yeah, with their variety of beers, I think they try to target, all class of individuals, because they have, their lower cost beers and they have some more specialty brands. So they try to, target all the individuals, all the classes.
Yeah, and I know they recently failed with that one. Remember the Pride Inclusion or whatever. So another thing is they tried to work around culture as well, but it didn't really pan out for them well.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
some of them do, like when they send out the what was it, like the Michelada ones, like the Bud Light,
Yeah.
and then they were a hit in some areas, and then such as seltzers, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, they definitely try to impact everyone depending on the market.
Mhm.
And then demographic we touched on, as far as how the population, the culture, the values switch, they adjust as well to target their marketing
They're
strategies.
so large. Their main demographic is just everyone above 21. Honestly, like I don't think like there's any
Yeah.
age discrimination. If you're fucking legal, if you're legal, you're drinking Anheuser Busch.
Well,
sorry.
well, honestly, even if you're not legal as underage drinkers, or oh, Bud Light or Budweiser or Miller Light, the
Yeah,
top
yeah,
that they
Yeah, and
see
I mean,
about.
even if it's not beer, like they have something like I keep mentioning Carbuck, but I like ranch water sometimes, and Carbuck makes a really
yeah,
good ranch
yeah.
water that, you don't even think like, oh, this is an Anheuser-Busch product, but they've got things out there for just about everybody.
Yeah. Agreed.
Nice.
All right.
Uh,
I think we
yeah, I think we covered
pretty much
them.
got everything though. All right.
Yeah.
Stop.